I'm Jonathan Arkush, and I'm going to be asking questions of the three candidates for President of UJS. I'm going to give them a pretty set format of questions and then explore some of the answers.
Hi, I'm Adam Charlton and I'm running for UJS President.
So Charlie, tell me a bit about you. What sort of person are you?
What kind of person am I? I'm a dedicated person. When I get into something and I want something, I try and work as hard as I can to make sure it happens. I'm caring, I'm happy, I'm normally quite relaxed as well, if I'm not dedicated to something. But yeah, I'm open to all things and willing to give things a go. I guess that's the best way to describe myself.
Have you got a career plan for when you're done with uni?
Absolutely not. Quite open to seeing how things go and letting things go in the wind, I guess.
You're studying politics at the moment, yeah. So politics might be a direction?
Maybe. Obviously politics is a pretty wide thing to cover, so I'm quite open to seeing how things go, maybe domestic, but I prefer something on the international stage, maybe something to do with Israel, but really not sure what to do with that yet.
What sorts of things have you got into on campus, particularly but not necessarily only Jewish-wise?
Oh, well, I was JSOC campaigns for Nottingham for the year, I guess, 2011. We ran an Israel week for nearly an entire week, which was a lot of fun. We gave out free falafel, free cake, everything a person walking through a student union wants. We set up a Bedouin tent on campus. Obviously, also dealing with things like anti-Israel, anti-Semitic things going on campus. I'm involved with the Politics Society there as well, but I also go to Debating Society, quite involved with just general things going on campus as well, just fun things as well. Used to be part of one of the sports teams, but not anymore, unfortunately. No longer up to the standard. Which sport? I was part of one of the rugby teams, but not anymore, unfortunately. But ran out of time and skill, I guess.
Running for UJS President, it's a big job.
Yeah.
Why do you want it? Do you want it?
I do want it, but I want it not just for myself. I'm running because I've been involved so much with UJS the last 2 years. I've done quite a lot of national things. I'm on national council right now and I see what the president does firsthand. I saw it under Daniel, the previous president, and I've seen it under Alex as well. And I think there needs to be more input directly from students. And I think my entire year, whilst dealing with all the miscellaneous stuff that comes up, and things you have to deal with president, and setting budgets, and making sure everyone's happy, and working with JSOCs, I think the most important thing right now is to set a legacy for UJS, so that Jewish students feel like it's not something separate. They can have a real say in UJS.
So when you said that you wanted more input from students, tell us what you mean by that.
So my plan is to set up groups which will involve current students from all across the country, say 15, 20 students, to deal with various aspects of the UJS kind of agenda. So we'd have a social action group, a welfare group, campaigns, president's group. Really we can have a limitless number, but it'll be up to what Jewish students want. We can sort it out at conference and have feedback from the JSOCs. But it would be essentially there for three things. We'd have a way of sharing ideas across the country, because at the moment I think it's all down to personal connections you have with people. So when I was campaigns, I'd speak to the campaigns in Birmingham, Manchester, Leeds, sometimes Bristol, sometimes London. But if you're a smaller JSOC and you don't have the connections, then you can be left out in the dark. And I think that's something that needs to change. And I think it's not impossible to change. So you could link up the people who are in Bristol and Bath and all the London universities, Oxford, Cambridge, across the country, Scottish universities, to the other universities and share ideas and experiences as well, because that's important. Second thing would give Jewish students a direct way of feeding back to UJS, because at the moment it's really only the committees that get to deal with it. And the third point is so that Jewish students, current Jewish students, can set the agenda, set the policies, for UJS, so that UJS can actually fulfil its role of representing Jewish students.
So for you, do you think UJS is in danger of getting too remote from the student on the ground?
Yes. I'm I'm one of the few Jewish students who has a direct say in UJS at the moment. My role in National Council is to advise the President, and that's, I'm a rare breed in that kind of way, because there aren't many Jewish students who get to do that. They're either in JSOC, which means they get to suggest things to the President and the person who has the relevant role on the UJS team, but the average student doesn't get to say in it. And really, if you're beyond the President or the Chair, or maybe the social action or the campaigns, you're really beyond being able to give feedback to UJS.
And how would this be different from Council? And are you setting up a sort of rival council to the Council?
No, the National Council would still stay, but the National Council's role is to advise the President. That's its role. But the President can't cover everything, and normally it's the President asks the National Council for feedback, and they give it to him. Or we have a meeting and we give him feedback. Sometimes we call and we check. I've called Alex this year to check up, see how things are going, but it's not inclusive. I can't speak for all Jewish students and all different things. I don't know if something welfare issue is being covered. Obviously, I'm also friends with the current campaigns director Judith, but if you don't have that personal connection, you can't. It's not always easy to pick up the phone and call someone at the UJS organisation or the UJS team. So what I'd like is there to be a more direct way for people to do it, a more formal way, so that Jewish students can have a formal way of getting feedback to UJS, setting ideas and policy. So it wouldn't be a challenge to National Council, it would be with National Council an extra thing to National Council.
Is that what you would most like to change, or are there other things as well?
That's the thing. I think from that we can have other changes. I think with changing that we can get more, we can be more inclusive, we can get more Jewish students involved. But yes, I think that's the main thing that I've seen as the problem with the last few years and getting feedback in and how we can change things, because I think this is stopping it at the moment.
And how would you go about forming this new, is it like a focus group, or?
So, deciding what to call them in a manifesto and as a campaign was difficult. Committees are a horrible word, but so groups was kind of what they ended up being called. But essentially what they would be is we'd have the role, the positions, the people with the relevant positions on JSOCs. So if it was a campaigns, all the campaigns coordinators would be in it. But as most JSOCs actually don't have a campaigns, if they're smaller. I mean, I went to Nottingham, there's 20 people on a committee. That's bigger than some JSOCs. So what we would have is students from the other JSOCs sitting on this as well. They'd be through Facebook, through meetings every now and then. There would be someone in the UJS team whose job it was to make sure they're being coordinated, but it wouldn't be their job to run the meetings and things like that. There could be a chair. I'm quite open to the idea of how we're exactly going to run them and take feedback on that, but obviously this is my first chance to really share the idea beyond the small group of people that I've been able to talk to. So over the next 3 weeks I'd love to take ideas about how we do it specifically, but I think the framework, setting up this framework for direct feedback and sharing ideas and setting policy is a really positive thing to do. Okay,
of the core values of UJS, what's the one that speaks to you most?
I think inclusivity, and the inclusive nature, the cross-communal nature of UJS. Through my personal experience, I've been in Orthodox youth movements, pluralist youth movements. I've changed my Jewish perspective and things and my political beliefs and all these kind of things. Well, they've grown, and I think that's really important that we have a space for everyone. It can't be UJS for one sect of Judaism or one political belief of political Zionism or whatever it is. We need it to be an inclusive place where Jewish students feel comfortable. And I've found that a lot in UJS, and I think we can do more to do it. But I think that would be the most central thing, I think, to the Union of Jewish Students, is inclusivity.
What about Israel?
What about Israel?
Controversial subject. Students will hold very, very different views. How should UJS engage with Israel and with the complexity?
Yeah. Well, I've tried to deal with this a lot on campus, and I would say the best way to do it is talk about it. Get Jewish students talking about what they feel about Israel, what they think about Israel, what they believe the facts are going on. Obviously, things like they are now with Gaza and Israel, I think most Jewish students would support, supporting Israel in some way, whether it's supporting exactly what they're doing now or it's right to self-determination, whether it's one state, two-state solution, whatever it is. I want Jewish students to feel like they have a place to discuss it. That's the biggest thing. Because you can't have Jewish students feeling like they can't be part of their JSOC because they don't exactly agree with what the president's view on Israel is. Or the speaker they bring in, they don't agree with them. You can't have that with the Jewish society.
You're UJS President, let's fast forward. How are you going to engage with the members? Are you just going to do it through one or other group or council?
Oh no, the President needs to be talking to JSOCs, continuously visiting JSOCs pretty much every week, but it's also showing people that it's not just about the President. That's the problem I feel at the moment, is that Jewish students feel like there's one person separate. They may not even know about the other people on the UJS team if they're not directly involved with it. It's about sending the team out across the country, because that's the best way you're going to learn about what students are dealing with, is by talking to them, speaking to them. And you know, you're not going to get every Jewish student on the phone all the time. So going to JSOC Friday nights, events, talking to people is the best way to engage people, in my mind.
But UJS has field workers, doesn't it? They go up and down the country?
You know, they can't be everywhere at all times. There's around 6 or 7 people, around 5 to 7 people on the national organisation team. They should all be going out to places.
You want to see them more out there?
Yeah, I think they're doing a good job as trying to be out there as much as possible. Some of them have nearly 20 universities that they're responsible for.
Yes. But
getting out there as much as possible is important. Calling people, you know, they should, maybe not every JSOC gets a call every week, but they should be spending, you know, most weeks, a lot of their time speaking to JSOCs, making sure that what they're doing is relevant and is coming back to the ground and where students are. Because the last thing you want is to run a whole thing, a whole event or a whole campaign or programme or initiative, and for it to not reach the students, which you can check up on if you give them a call once in a while.
2015, 3 years, you're looking back on the past, including a year when you were president of UJS. Where do you see UJS in 3 years' time, after you were president?
After I was president, I want to leave a legacy where Jewish students run UJS as much as possible. Obviously there's the organisation side and things like that, but I would want to see UJS as more than just a separate organisation that JSOCs deal with, or just, you know, says things when people need a quote from Jewish students. I want it to be a forum for Jewish students to talk to each other, speak to each other about what's going on their campus, and not just a top-down organisation, but more a network for everyone, Jewish students, which is already kind of there. You know, they say 6 degrees of separation for everyone else, and around 2 or 3 for Jews.
Is that what you would see as your biggest achievement, sort of greater democratisation of UJS?
If in 3 years more Jewish students have an affiliation with UJS, I'd be over the moon. That would be a great aim and a great achievement, I think.
Charlie, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.